Welcome back to On the Market. Up next is episode 2, where I'm joined by the Mart Manager of Tullow Mart, Mr. Eric Driver. Eric is a passionate man about all things livestock. Today, we want to find out about where Eric finds his drive, passion, and determination, and what lies ahead for the Irish Mart. Enjoy. And Eric being the man in the background shouting and roaring at cattle hasn't changed, has it, Eric?
No, Jamie, it hasn't changed. But that's what you do. What you know best. You do what you know best.
Eric, why from all them years? How or why or how did it get to where you are now? What did you love about it?
I just love what it's about, Jamie. It's the hustle and bustle of the mart industry, and I've been born and reared on a farm and loved agriculture and livestock, and in a sector where I knew where I'm most comfortable. And I suppose if I take a look at my career in life in relation to my working life, I have always been involved with agriculture through sales repping, be it for feedstuffs, machinery. I worked with other marts, and but my heart was always in Tullow. I was, as you have just rightly said, there from a very young age. I was penning sheep in my early days, in my teens. Went on then to be clerking on the rostrum, weighing cattle, out then in the yard penning cattle when I was old enough and wise enough maybe to stay out of their way when I needed to. And to be fair to the team in Tullow, it's very much a family run ship, and the ethos is about looking after each other. And certainly, I was looked after in Tullow down those years, and very gladly the position was made available to me to go back in an assistant management role for John. John had done many very good and positive years in Tullow, and he was taking on a role outside of the mart, and I was offered the position to come in and support him in that. And I learned so much from John and from his time as a manager that I was very lucky to have had that period.
I think we can both say that John was a very, very popular man around the Tullow Mart, and it was big shoes to fill.
Oh, certainly, yeah. But I suppose to be fair to John and to the team in Tullow, it wasn't so much shoes to fill, it was shoes to walk in. When John decided that he was moving back from the position of manager and the position was made available to me, it was very much with John going to be in a supportive role. And yeah, we have seen him there, and he's phased away in time as time has gone by. And that's correct and right too, for each of us to make our own path and new vision. But to be fair to John, even since COVID has come to this country, he's been maybe somewhat more extracted from the Mart premises, but nevertheless, he's at the other end of the phone and ready to support us in every way. So it wasn't so much for me shoes to fill, it was shoes to walk in with the support of so many around me.
The journey from being that boy in the pens and clerking on the rostrum, and what was it like to Mart Manager?
It was amazing. Yeah, I suppose it really learned me to trust and understand everything that goes on within the mart. For somebody, I don't know how anyone could walk into the role of being a mart manager and not have come up through the ranks of a mart premises. Like, I fully appreciate what every member of staff has to do in Tullow. That being the person who labels the livestock in the morning, be it cattle or sheep, to the person who brings them to the scales, culls them, puts them in on the scales, to the person who takes them around the ring, takes them off the ring, and then pens those livestock, be the sheep or cattle. I fully know what they're doing. I've done it myself, and I fully appreciate the work that's involved in that. When you go to the rostrum, then yes, I've done it all. I've weighed them, we've clerked them, and certainly I have stood beside the auctioneers and sat beside them long periods of time. And yeah, we got through it, and we met with the problems. And I suppose I was never afraid to put my shoulder to the wheel in that respect, and was given a great opportunity with John then down in his latter years of management to really get involved in the problems and find ways of sorting them. And I made mistakes. There's no doubt about it. I certainly made mistakes, made wrong judgment calls, and will make them ahead going forward. We always will be open to make a mistake, but I think the main thing is that you correct in your ways and you keep an eye on what's going on. And then in the office, like, to be fair to the girls in the office, I have great admiration for what they're doing now. They have adapted so well now, but I even when I arrived in Tullow back the years when technology and computers weren't what they were today, there was reams of paper and pens and calculator tot and rolls going into the night, but every book was balanced and every cent was paid, and that's what the Mart business is about.
I suppose we've big changes last year. 2020 has been a massive year in terms of new developments. It's also been a massive year in terms of changes from tendering to fully online to back to people around the ring to back to fully online. How has that been in terms from the mart, from the girls in the office, from you as a mart manager, and probably even the auctioneers?
I suppose I would classify myself as one of the more luckier Mart managers because of my age profile.
And because of Mart.
Well, hold on now. We won't give you full place to that just yet now, sir. But I suppose I was possibly, and I'm one of the luckier people. So I was technology I wasn't so afraid of. And I had an understanding of it somewhat more than others, maybe. And that has been a help to me. But you're certainly correct, Jamie. 2020, I cast my mind back to our fat stock sales. Probably one of the better fat stock sales we'd had in Tullow for a long number of years. Great volume of cattle, serious prices achieved on the day in the trade that we were in at that particular time. And it looked like we were rolling into a year of positive movement in the trade scenario. However, that all awry came awash after St. Patrick's weekend in March 2020, and our premises was closed. We were closed for the shortest period of time as a mart in the mart industry. We were the first mart back to do live weighing, and we done that with sheep and cattle. And then we moved into tendering. And my goodness, if you ever seen me losing my strands of hair, it was over them few days. And I could do it losing them now, mind you, but certainly over that tendering business, that was hard work, very, very difficult, and was not something that was going to be sustainable for my sanity or for the mart business going forward. And correct, I suppose I'd have to give you a small bit of a pat on the back, Jamie, but it's only small, to say that you had contact me to say, Eric, we have this fabulous thing. Now, the only way I knew Jamie was, again, as he has alluded to, knowing me beforehand, was that I remembered him being around the mart with his dad years back previous, and had encountered him on a couple of his calving cameras around in different yards. But didn't really know what Jamie was going to bring us, or the trouble he was going to cause. But Marta was formed, and we were delighted to be the first Mart to bring it to the ring. And certainly that night before we went live, Jamie, I did not sleep. Certainly did not sleep. Didn't leave the premises till after midnight, with the assertion from Jamie that everything was going to be good and correct and right, and it would work. And in his hands, I had to entrust it and leave it, and fully endorsed that it was going to happen. And yes, we've had teething problems, and yes, we've had little bits of hiccups along the way, but my goodness, it has been a fabulous year for me now in relation to seeing how we have brought sustainability back into the industry and back into the mart business by bringing online bidding practically into the sales ring, which is the oldest privately owned mart in the country.
Well, when you talk about Tullow Mart, I suppose until August last year, I didn't even know that there was a third ring in Tullow Mart. It's a lot bigger than meets the eye. And I suppose from me being around the country, it has a huge catchment area. How far does it really go?
Well, sure, look at Jamie. We'll take them from anywhere. If the stock want to be sold in Tullow, we won't refuse them. But certainly, not to be flippant about it, our catchment area is vast. You know, we're right back up into the Wicklow Mountains. We go off down into Wexford, Ross, back across into Borris, Greg, Kilkenny. You know, we have a very vast area. Carlow certainly is our home county, and one thing we have to be very, very, very resilient and familiar to is that it is the farmer's choice. It's his or her choice where they wish to go with their stock. And we have to be very much memorable of that. And this has been drilled into me, and it's something that I have learned over the last number of years of management, is that you have to work with your clients and work with your farmers and hear what they want and deliver on what they need. And that's something that we like to do in Tullow. And our ethos is to definitely keep a very much a family run aspect to the business. And if you keep a family approach, I think we're a long way along the road to keeping the stock moving in our direction.
In terms of that Mart manager job, I've rang you of a Friday evening, and some of the words mightn't have been the politest words, where there was a highly stressful day or whatever you call it. What is the most stressful part of a Mart manager's job?
But it has certainly changed over the period of time, and even in my 7 years now of management of total livestock sales, it has certainly changed. What's the most stressful part now is when the auctioneer stops talking on the rostrum. Now now my heart is in my mouth. What's happened? Is there an internet gone down? Have we a Marti program in breakdown? What's the issue? What's caused this issue? Because until then, it was something that I could handle. It was under my control. And I suppose for me as a Mart manager, as long as I'm in control, I'm not stressed. But when I'm not in control, my goodness, the heart rate is at 200 beats a minute, and it's just all systems are in wipeout, and anyone that gets in my way is going. And I apologize for it, but it's going. They're going to get the works. Like, they're just going to get cleaned. Their clock will be cleaned. But certainly now, in the current situation with all online, the stress is around delivering for your customers. They are entrusting you with so much. They leave in their livestock with you. They leave them with you to offer them for sale. They're entrusting you to do your best to ensure that the team around you is doing their best for them. That being the auctioneers, right through to the yard staff, back to the girls in the office, and me as the Mart manager. And that is stressful. There's no doubt about it. But there's a pleasure to it also, because knowing that you're doing it correctly and you're achieving best prices.
You say about the auctioneer. In terms of the auctioneer now, it's I suppose not that much of a job for him that the online system does the work. Some say don't need an auctioneer, others say it's the auctioneer that makes it. What's your opinion on that?
Now, I'd have to disagree with anyone who'd say that the auctioneer is surplus to requirement. The auctioneer is not surplus to requirement. I think now more than ever, the auctioneer has to work. And I think there has to be a certain resilience put back and reliance put back to the auctioneer here, in saying he or she has to look at that animal in the ring, open it at a correct value, assure it makes the value that it needs to make promptly and fastly, not to delay the sale, not to be creating a lull in the situation, to keep the momentum up and to keep the spirits of the bidders active. Because don't forget, you are competing now with so much else. One click of a button, and you're gone from Marta into Facebook. You're gone from Facebook into sending a text message, reading a WhatsApp. It's all changed. Whereas up till we went online and we got this medium of of being able to sell stock, that if you were bidding, you were at the ringside and you seen the animal and you had not much else to concentrate on other than if Tom or Jack or Mary wanted a word in your ear, well, you had a chat with them, but still you could keep an eye to the ring. That's not happening anymore. So the auctioneer for me is crucial. He or she has to keep the interest of the buyers online. He or she has to flow the auction with speed and pace, and they have to assure that they're keeping a market value. And that is for me a challenge, I think, for the auctioneer.
I think now the two auctioneers you have in Alan and Miles are going to have a challenge in the next couple of years after what we've seen on the Marte charity auction with Mr. Eric Driver auctioneer. I will say that I was present that night beside you. There was a level of passion that I'd never seen before. Is it something that you'd aspire to do?
Yes, yes. There's no hiding the fact that it is, and I have done a course at the minute, and I've been awarded that course, thankfully. So, yes, auctioneering is something that I would aspire to do and will do more of into the future. But it's correct that I have to get the balance, and my first responsibility is the Tullow livestock sales. I am the Mart manager, and I will continue to be the Mart manager for as long as they wish me to be there. And having said all that, yes, the aspiration is there to be an auctioneer, and I will follow that passion because I believe it's no weight to carry on my belt. And certainly, if there's any skill in part of being a Mart manager, other than being able to move stock around the yard and deal with the customers, is to be able to value livestock, and that's important.
And I suppose, look, it's shown in other marts around the country, we suppose down south, that being a mart manager and an auctioneer can actually work. We've one mart down in the south that the mart manager does do it, so it can work with a balance, as you said.
Yeah, no, it's important that you remember the balance, and it's also important that you mentioned the names of both Miles and Alan, and they are, two. We're very lucky to have such brilliant and resident auctioneers with us. And also then we have Michael Farley, who joins the team when we're under pressure with larger sheep sales and that. And Michael comes down and joins us and gives us a dig out too. So yeah, we're very, very lucky. But again, from my own personal aspect of it, I won't not continue to lift the gavel. I will continue to lift the gavel. It's in some aspect, but my first responsibility will always be to the management of Tullow livestock sales.
I suppose if we go back for a moment in terms of when John Murphy was at the helm, what two different two different times, totally different, probably bigger stock numbers back then. Would you agree?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Oh, God. Certainly.
What
Yes.
what are the challenges from back then to now in being a mart manager position?
But so the challenges are different now in relation to, obviously the main challenge is the common challenge throughout is keeping throughput into the premises. That hasn't changed nor won't change. and that's about keeping the stock numbers coming through the gates and keeping the place viable. However, there has been big changes in relation to communication, how you get out your messages and your information. People now don't accept uh, paper presses and press releases into newspapers and everything. That's not how news travels anymore. We have to be on the pulse of it now. So there's a responsibility to keep the news live and current, and that's where you work through the likes of Agriland and Irish Farmers Journal apps and all of those different Irish Independent also. All those different live information aspects now have to be very much mindful of them, and that they are fed the information that's correct and correct and very much the truth of what's happening in your mart, and especially in Tullow. And then we also see the actual management of the structure, the finances of things. Money moves much quicker now. Money moves much quicker out, and money moves. You have to make sure that money is moving equally as quickly in, and that's the other level of mart management that nobody else sees. But I have to make sure that's kept an eye on 24/7 around the clock. And to be lucky, I have a great team around me who help me in doing that.
With all these changes we're talking about, I suppose, and challenges and that, what is the future for Mart in Ireland and Tullow Mart as a ham? Where is it going to go throughout the next couple of years? I know we've the online bidding, and we've seen massive changes through 2020. I suppose massive changes coming again 2021. But where is it going? What is the future for it?
I think the marts possibly were in a scenario where they were running a course of time was catching up with them until we had COVID. And COVID enforced us to move into this online sales capacity. And it has given us a breath of fresh air. It has given us a passion to get back into the ring again. And that, pardon the pun, is where I would comment that we are now able to beat down the likes of our done deals and our online farm sales, because we're giving you a live market price. You do not need to be there. Your no time is taken out of your day. You drop in your stock with us. You entrust them to the mart, and the mart team work for you. So they're working for the seller and they're also working for the buyer. But for a buyer, also, they're getting a transparent weight, they're getting a transparent animal, they're getting to see all the relevant information as it is correct on the day in front of them online, wherever they are bidding from. And they're getting a picture of the actual animals that are being offered for sale. There's no such thing as picking up an ad following that. And I'll be honest with you, I just am not comfortable with how livestock is traded in the country, other than through the online sales or the Mart ring sales ring. It's not in me to be comfortable with it. I'm a Mart manager. I'm not going to make any excuse for that. But I certainly feel that we have given ourselves a new breath of fresh air in adapting into this online sales platform. Certainly when the sales ring reopens, and it will reopen, and there is a certain number of our clients out there. It's a minimum number now, and it's getting more minimal as time has gone past. But there is a minimal number out there who are not comfortable with the online way of bidding and would like to get back around the ring. And I fully understand that. And I look forward to having people around the ring, because the atmosphere of the mart changes immediately. But online is here to stay. And it's more important that we as marts, as an industry, ensure that it stays, as it is important for the sellers and buyers to ensure that they have it, because it has given us a lifeline that we really would not have accepted or taken on with such gusto and passion as we did in April, May of 2020.
I suppose one thing that probably I've seen that has really kind of struck a chord with me is, and I say it's kind of one of my words, I suppose, is people buying blind. And what I mean by that is people buying stock without having seen the animal beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going back to the start of it and people telling me no, it would never happen, and places such an onus on seeing the stock in the mart pre-sale.
Mm-hmm.
Does it happen, and how often?
Every week. It's happening all the time now. I see less and less people in the premises viewing the stock in advance of sale. We have some very large buyers will be with us every Friday, and they haven't darkened the premises since COVID commenced, and we went into an online sales capacity, and they have been crucial to the trade. But buying blind, I suppose, Jamie, is a word you could borrow onto it if you wanted, but I would rephrase that. You're not buying blind anymore. The information is at your fingertips. It's there. It's in front of you. The board is there. You can see your dates of birth. You can see your movements. You can see your breeds. You can see your quality assurance. All that is relevantly there. And then also the physical image of the animal is in the ring. And this comes down to cameras and yeah, if there was anything I could have clocked you with was cameras, and wipe this and wipe that. And once upon a time, I used to give out to the lads for standing in the corner because the animals weren't being turned around in the ring or weren't being got out of the ring quick enough. Now I have to set them up with a box of tissues. So they're able to wipe the camera every 20 minutes, every time an animal goes over and sneezes on the camera. But that's where it is now. That's where the industry is now. And it's important that we, as a mart industry, continue to ensure that level stays there of going into the future, because it has given us such a step in the viability of our industry. But also, what you would have to say, Jamie, is that that point of buying blind is, especially even moreover, I would even have noticed it in the dairy sales, was where guys are going on facts and figures. The farming now is much more than what the physical animal can look like to me or you. It's about facts and figures and how that animal is going to what's going to produce in the parlor, how it's doing in the parlor, and that's in the dairy situation. And then if you go back to the cattle, then and the beef industry, of course, there's a little bit more to be understood about an animal, but for grading and that. But if you're buying stores and especially lighter store cattle, I would be, having seen it myself and been part of it, I think that there's nothing so wrong about buying online as long as you give yourself the confidence that you're doing what you're doing correct and you're able to get the relevant information to you fast. But we've talked about it right through here the evening about online. The biggest problem, Jamie, that's within this whole industry, and it's outside of your control and my control, is broadband. It is the inability of our government to deliver a broadband package into rural Ireland that is able to give farmers peace of mind and confidence that when to take out their phone, be it to register a calf, be it to watch the local sales ring, or to do whatever they have to do, that the ability to do that on their technical piece of equipment, be it their phone, their computer, their laptop, that can be done with peace of mind, knowing that they have broadband connection. And that is such a disappointment.
It's the same, I think, through every mart. There's glitches here and there, and I suppose it's something that is going to have to be looked at in a bigger picture. But going back to where you were, Eric, another thing I suppose I'm intrigued into is the second camera on the ring. Now, this is not from a Martite perspective at all, and I'm kind of speaking about, but that second camera that you have also with the weighbridge camera, what's been feedback been on that? And I'm genuinely intrigued in this.
Look, it has it's probably helped in relation to keeping the interest of the buyer. That they're able to see what's coming. So if they're not particularly interested in the lot that's in the ring, they can flick over the camera and say, "Well, I wonder what's coming in next. Now we'll have a look at that one." And we hear a small bit about that. Haven't heard an awful lot of feedback back about it, other than your cameras are good, Eric. We can see good, clear images. Keep the cameras clear. This, that, and the other. So our camera system is working. Again, it's all about our internet connection, and that's where if we had megapixels and correct timing speeds and great uploading speeds for the broadband, it'd be marvelous. But we don't, and it's out of my control and it's out of your control, and I can blame you and you can blame me. But it's something that we have no control over, and it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment.
And I suppose going back one more time, you hit off there a moment ago. Dairy sales in Tullow. It's something that you've been very vocal on Facebook about, and you are getting the numbers, you are getting the prices. What's the future for Tullow Mart with the dairy sales?
We will continue to beat the drum. And I suppose it's going back to where we had our calf sales 5 years ago. We had no calf sale in Tullow, and now we have a calf sale. We have a weekly calf sale now on a Friday morning, and that has worked for us. And that was continuously beating the drum. And when you felt you were defeated, you got up, shook yourself off, and got on again with it. And that's who I am. I won't give up. I'm like a sort of a beaver. I keep just beaving away, and that's what I'm going to do with the dairy sales, and we'll keep at it. And I want to thank all those who have given us their stock to sell on their behalf and offer them on their behalf. I don't think we have disappointed. At least I would certainly hope not. And we've got achieved some very good and very positive prices, especially for some of the more maiden stock going through the ring. And we really look forward. We're near the end of the breeding season, we're near the end of the dairy sale season, should I say, for this current year. With a lot of dairy farmers settle into their positions for the summer, and we'll be back again in the autumn. And when we're back, we'll be banging the drum again.
We're coming near the end of Cavan 2021 in terms for the dairy and the suckler. What's it been like? How has the calf sales been? What have you learned from it this year?
Calf sales have been good. Our numbers have been, our throughput has been very positive. Again, I suppose if anything I was nervous about was those animals being sold online. How was this going to work in relation to? We've talked about buying blind, and God, buying a calf now could be a bit of an effort now. The differential between a narrow Frisian and and a wider Frisian, or a more British Frisian calf to a more Holstein type calf. It'd be hard to pixelate that on a camera now, but it's been done and has worked, and worked very well. Trade has been better throughout. We had no glitches, thankfully, majorly to report in the exporting of the calves, which was a big help. We can put that down to the weather, maybe, that we hadn't as many storm patterns as we've seen in the previous year. But still, we kept the exporting out, and we've got over the hump now, and we move forward in what has been a very positive trade, I would say, across the board. Possibly calves were 20-30 euro better as a yearly price as we would have seen on an average from the previous year.
With, I suppose, the bull sales now coming into their time of year, dairy farmers and suckler farmers now alike, but concentrating on the dairy breed for a moment. What breed bull would you recommend for the back of the calf, off the back of the calf sales this year,
Look,
on prices and?
we have to look to the beef breeds. We're certainly in a scenario now where we need to get those Angus and Hereford calves coming back into the system, especially when we run with a scenario that exporting of Frisian calves and all types of calves, but especially the Frisian calves, is so sensitive now, especially towards weather conditions and other EU regulations that's threatening every year as we start into the exporting season. And I think to follow that point through, Jamie, as you look back to where we are now, at this current market in the main ring, I would have seen Hereford and Angus bullocks and heifers securing 210, 215, even we got 220 a kilo for bundles on Friday gone of those lighter 300, 320, 30 kilo bullocks and heifers of the Hereford and Angus types. So that for me gives viability, because if you can bring that calf, buy them calves in the ring, feed them, and do a good job, a good and correct job on them, winter them, and get them back out in the month of April at 330, 40, 50 kilos, we're bringing those calves into the mid 700 euros. Well, then I think there's as much viability there as you're going to get in that industry. So I certainly would implore on farmers, and look, that's not knocking away the limousine calf or the Charolais calf, but it's about what the farmer has to get the balance correct for his cow also. And having met with dairy farmers, it's all about getting the easy calf out on the ground and getting the cow into the parlour and getting her milking. So for me, it's that Hereford, Angus, beef breed, limousine, Charolais, Belgian blue, pick of a button, whichever you want to go with. But certainly, I think the day of the Frisian has to be very minded that we have to be very careful that we're breeding, if we are going to breed Frisians, that we're going to breed Frisians that have a beef aspect to them. But I think sex semen has its own role to play when it comes to breeding of the Frisians.
Just before we jump on to sheep, quickly jumping back on the calf sales, was it the exporter or the farmer that was most prevalent in the calf ring this year?
There was a great balance between both. The exporter was there, and he or she kept the base in the trade. There's no doubt about that. But then what I would have noticed more this year than we would have seen in the previous year, and what I probably could say we could cast it back to 2 years ago, was that there was more farmers around the ring again, because they physically weren't there and they were able to do their work from online. And that was a big aspect in relation to watching the sale in Tullow or wherever that be. Oh God, there's a calf not too bad in the money. Yeah, sure, here, and we press the button, and before we know it, we press the button, we've achieved the calf, and you buy one, you buy two, you buy 10, and then you have a trailer load.
And moving on to your most favorite subject, I'm sure now if it was in school you would have gone A. Sheep. I suppose it's your first love, is it?
Well, sure, it's what I grew up with. Have been around sheep, and my parents have had a sheep farm all their lives, and my dad will be known quite well around for his shepherding abilities. So, yeah, look at sheep. I know sheep, and it's much easier to work with the sheep in relation to being able to value them for me. But look at I've learned so much about cattle, and we have suckler herd now at home. So look at it's much of a muchness, but certainly the old trusted sheep are sure to give you enough hardship that you'll get rid of that stress and tension after a day if you have to go out and dose a batch of ewes and lambs or anything like that.
One thing I will say is, having been in Tullow Mart for sheep sales and not having been there before, as no history of sheep, and on my side, I suppose seeing the level or the quantity of sheep in Tullow Mart has been a bit of a surprise for me. It's a massive sheep sale.
Yeah, it has grown even for us in the last sort of 2 year time frame. It has certainly grown for us, but look, it hasn't grown because of anything special that I'm doing or anything special that any one of us is doing in the sales yard. It's growing because we're achieving the prices and we're pushing the boat, and that's all about supply and demand. And certainly, sheep are on a very positive place at the minute in relation to trade. But you have to know the animal and you have to know the beast that you're dealing with. And certainly, I understand and fully understand sheep, but also you have to be able to work with your clientele. And to be fair to the sheep farmers, if we go back to COVID and the breakdown and the closing of the marts for that very short 10-day period, was in a very fragile time for the sheep industry. You were at the end of March, May, April. You're moving into the end of the hogget season. You're moving into the spring lamb season. And I think we worked hard in those couple of weeks. I remember weighing live day after day and keeping sheep moving into the industry. And it has stood its test of time to us. And I'm grateful to the farmers for not forgetting us on that. But yeah, look, we've the Tullow Sheep Breeders Association there. We're with us over 30 years now, a great, strong association for the breeding sheep. They have made the famous ring tree that you didn't know we had famous. And it's there, and we have our breeding sales right through from July to the end of October. And we're looking forward to them kicking off in what 3 months' time. My goodness, the year is slipping around. And yeah, we have good clients coming to us, all factories represented, many wholesalers active online now. And again, here I am saying online. They're online now with us because they may not be on the premises, but they're getting the sheep handled for them by an agent, and they're saying particular lots are suitable, and they're following them through online themselves, bidding for them, and that's just brilliant. It has brought a whole new sh- team of customers into the ring, and we're so very important that we continue to grow that and nurture that we continue to make the sales ring more and more viable. Because that old saying that is drilled into my heart is, when you're in the seller's box or you're in a mart, you're selling your stock in the mart, you're a price maker, not a price taker. And when you kill them, you're taking the price. The animal doesn't come back. But if you put that animal into the sawdust, you're a price maker, not a price taker. Price is made for you by the auctioneer. You have the right to refuse it or take it. And if you don't wish for the price, it's still your animal. You can put you can put it in the trailer, sheep, cattle, cow, bullock, heifer, whatever you want, in the trailer, and you take it home. Now, I will do my damnedest not let you out of the place with it, but it's still your animal and you have the right to decision. And I think that's the most important part that farmers have to remember when they're selling their stock, that they need to get themselves into a position of being a price maker, not a price taker.
Touch off the breeding sales coming up. There's one I'm looking forward to is the Charlotte sheep sale in there. Speaking to George the other day, it's something I'm looking forward to. I think it's always an event with George at the helm. Last year he done a brilliant job on it. The banter, the crack. I know we had people around the ring that time. Hopefully we might this year too. But is it something that you're glad to have back? I know last year you were looking forward to it, and certainly for me, I thought it was a brilliant day.
Oh, of course. Look, at any day you have to get up and put on the Mart jacket and go in and fling back those two gates and open the Mart premises is a great day. And certainly we're looking forward to having the Charlets with us for what will be their 32nd show and sale. And we've hosted all of them bar one down through the years. And yeah, George is just the life and soul of that day. He is the Irish Charlotte Sheep Society when it comes to auctioneering sheep. And his banter and his commentary and his voice, a cappella motions. 1 minute he could be shouting at 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, and you never know what he's going to say. And it's always a pleasure to watch him and in action. And certainly we enjoy that sale very much. There's a lot of work around it, there's no doubt about it. But then there's a fine yard of very respectable sheep. And it's a credit to all the breeders that they turn out the sheep the way that they do. And their straw, God, the straw, 7 foot high straw. Oh, straw! I'm pushing out of the place for about a month after it. But look, it's a brilliant day and a great day for the sales yard, and it really gives us that kick into the breeding season for the sheep industry, that you're sort of right with this Charlotte Premier behind us now. It's into all the different ram sales for August, September, and yeah, it's a great day. And I would say to anybody, if you have nothing else on, just tune into the Marti sale with George. That'll be the last Saturday in July this year, and I can guarantee you it'll be like going to the Gaiety Theatre.
I completely agree. One thing I suppose I've been following here from the Marti side is the rising trend in sheep price. Eric, how far can this go? Where is it going to stop? It's been phenomenal. 1 minute we're up, 1 minute we're back down a little bit. Now we're back up again. Where's it going to go?
I think we're probably peaking. I think we're probably peaking as it is now. And if we can keep the momentum that we have at the minute, it would be absolutely marvelous. I'd be concerned that we possibly won't. And I'm never a person to talk about the glass being half empty. It's always half full in my respect. And certainly we have seen very positive increase in the trade, especially for the hoggets, lambs. And in the last number of weeks, cash joes have taken a bit of a drive forward also. Look at the cash Joe thing is relaxing a little bit this week, and we have to be. That was probably inevitable that we were going to get ourselves into a commodity that was going to become too dear. But it's important that we would see the very prime product, which is lamb, being sustained and maintained in the weeks ahead as numbers start to come out now, and we will start to see peaks and troughs in numbers, and we're peaking into the higher time into that June, July, August, which is the peak of the lamb numbers. But we've seen great trades, we've seen great prices, and there's one thing across the whole industry, be it beef or sheep or dairy, whatever animal comes into the ring, farmers support farmers. And those that have finished hoggets this year, bought stores in the fall of the year and along in the late summer off of those that are breeding the store lambs, they'll be back. And by God, they'll be full of enthusiasm because they got it all and a bit more this year. I'm glad to see they got it. I sell a lot of store lambs myself. I have a lot of ewes at home and I mind my own in my own flock. And I was delighted to get the price I got. And if I can get that price again next year, I'll be a very happy chappy. But I think I should be well able to achieve it and a bit more this year. And I'm delighted to see that those getting. I've seen people who bought store lambs off me getting the same price again on top of it, buying them for €80 off me, and I've sold them now for €160. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely marvelous. But that's where the trade is. It's where it needs to be. It's what's sustainable, just about sustainable now for agriculture, sheep and the sheep industry for to keep the prices where they are at the minute. Will it happen? I am nervous because why do I say that? Because it's in the hands of too few. It's in the hands of too few.
I'll jump back onto sustainability in a moment, but you're seeing big cattle numbers lately in Tullow. Is it down to the time of the year? Is it Tullow on the rise? Where are we going, Eric? What's happening here from a Martype's perspective? We're seeing Tullow on later in the day on a Friday. We're seeing more rings. We're seeing a huge amount of stock. Where's it coming from? Where's it?
Look, the easy answer for me to say to you, Jamie, is, oh yeah, that's all us. That's all Tullow. It's all, it's me and the girls in the office and the lads in the yard. But no, it's not. It's about being able to procure a trade, and certainly I would feel that we have instilled the confidence of our clients back into Tullow again. And you go around on a wheel, and you never want to forget that the wheel turns. And sometimes you'll be at the bottom of the wheel, and it's important that when you do start rising to the top, that you don't allow it to swell you, and you get to the top, and then you try and hang on for as long as you can and do everything you can to stay there. And certainly for Tullow, I'm delighted to see larger sales. I want to thank everybody, all our customers for that, because without them, without our sellers, well, we just wouldn't have a sales yard. But I think our adaptability to online and our adaptability to working with our clients and instilling the confidence in them that we are going to do our very best for them. And that falls back to the girls in the office, especially to Hannah, Elizabeth, Caroline, and Rebecca. Four just serious women that put their whole day into ensuring that everything is done correctly for the customer, both for the buyer and the seller, but predominantly for the seller. As I think, as one wise auctioneer said to me, who has since retired, you always should look after the sellers because the buyers will look after themselves. And it's good. It was good advice. And certainly it's the attitude that the girls have taken in Tullow. The buyers are there with them or wherever they are. They won't give you a penny more than they need to give you, and rightly so. And rightly so. It's the art of buying. But for the seller, they need to get as much as they can rightly achieve. And oh, certainly we've told a couple of sellers that we don't think you're being fair there. You're asking a price that's achievable. But moreover than that, now we'd like to accredit ourselves with getting the sales over the line. And I think that people have reacted to that over the last number of months, and certainly we're seeing a larger throughput at the minute. But of course, it's the time of the year too, Jamie. There's a lot of stock to be sold at the minute, and we're just lucky and very thankful that they're coming Tullow way.
Even with that quantity of stock around, cattle are scarce. For the dealers, for the feedlots, they're scarce. Is it that they're scarce, or is it that just the farmers back in control?
Well, I would say that certainly the numbers in the country are down, and we have the depletion of the suckler herd there has to be recognised in that respect. But having said all that, Jamie, I suppose what we're seeing here is that maybe there's more cattle coming back into the rings now, and there's less on-farm sales or less private sales going on because of the price that's been achieved ringside, and that's paramount. That old price maker, price taker thing has to be kept alive, and I think that we will always have a viability scenario that we will make the price for whatever way the deal will be done afterwards outside the farm market. But uh, certainly numbers are tighter for the feedlots and industries, and that's has a positiveness going into the future. Maybe are we seeing this price rise at the minute? Will it be sustained? I think it will, for the beef sector, and certainly it needs to be sustained because it's not viable at the minute. Buying store cattle or feeding on cattle now at the minute, it's just the margins are just too tight. They're extremely tight, and I sadly would have to feel that there's many are supporting this out of their own pocket, spending their own hard-earned cash over a lifetime and investing them back into cattle today, and really are playing with the devil's advocate. So certainly numbers are less on the ground in relation to what's available to feedlots and that, but that mightn't be such a bad thing. Those feedlots have had a lot of control.
Going back to sustainability and the depletion of the suckler herd, I suppose we're hearing about it everywhere at the moment. And I suppose farmers are moving from that typical beef suckler approach into the dairy. Um, can suckler farming be profitable? If it can, how?
It certainly can be profitable, Jamie. How can suckler farming be profitable? I'm afraid it has to come down to breeding. For me, it's all about the breeding. You look at there is some fabulous breeding sales happening now. We won't give them much advertising, but we have to mention the JLX sale up in the north, James Alexander sale. That's a fabulous showcase of really fine class suckler bred animals. But with all that said, the suckler industry now is certainly at a major crossroads. There's a support mechanism that has to be found there for them. The dairy industry has that mechanism. The sheep industry at the minute is getting a very strong price rise, which is supporting itself. But the suckler industry, that suckler cow is a long keep for it. It's a 365-day project for a 1-day outing, which is this calf that has to be sold. So that calf has to come to the ring or to wherever it's being offered for sale, but predominantly in the ring, I'd like to say. That calf has to show itself off and showcase itself very, very well and achieve top prices. And we have seen that in Tullow in the weeks gone past. You cast your mind back there to well-bred, outwintered limousines, Charolais bullocks there coming in at 450, 460 kilos, and the flashing over the €3 a kilo mark. They're coming up close to 1,300. That's suckler farming, I believe, done well. Year-old, little better than year-old cattle coming to the ring there, January, February 20 born, coming to the ring now. They have never had the foot taken off the gas right from the day they were born. That farmer has worked very hard every day, ensuring that he achieved high levels of growth rate and done everything correctly. But I think he had a turn in him. I do think he had a few pound out for himself, and he needed it. That's his viability. That's his farming. That's his paycheck. But it certainly comes down to breeding. But the day of the suckler cow breeding the substandard animal that's not able to beat the dairy beef animal it's over. That day is over. And I think there's a responsibility there then in relation to how we would genotype these cows with these 4 and 5 star scenarios and beef breeding. And I don't know. There's cows come into the ring that are big, strong continental cows, and they're only carrying 1 and 2 stars. And then you would see, and I'm not talking down the Hereford or Angus cow, but she's unfortunately her viability to sustain, to produce the correct animal with the size and ability to grow into a correct growth weight, coming in with 4 and 5 stars. It just mystifies me now and again. Just mystifies me.
I suppose us here in Martai, we know you from your presence as your Mart representation. Through your role there, what do you see the Marts going through in the next 5 years? Where's it going to go?
Well, look, I'm secretary of Associated Livestock Marts, I think is what you're alluding to there, and that's really an honorary role at the minute. But nevertheless, it's a role that I have been involved in since I took over as Mart Manager of Tullow Livestock Sales, because John would have been involved heavily with Associated Livestock Marts in his time. Where do I see the Marts? I see less of us. There'll be less of us as time goes on. We can't all remain here in this viable scenario, because, as we have just alluded to, the stock numbers are less. So there's less stock out there. There's less stock to be possibly go through a sales ring, and it's survival of the fittest. And I'd like to think that we'll run the race and we'll continue to run it well for as long as I have the blood in my veins, and Tullow Mart owners want me to do that. Um, but certainly there's big challenges ahead of us. We've adapted very well in some challenges to date in the mart industry, other than the beauty of this online ability to sell stock. Sheep EID tagging, for example. Who would have thought that 5 years ago, tomorrow morning, as I go into Tullow onto a sheep sale, that my biggest job will be to get the tablets up and going and get ones going to read the 2 or 2,500 sheep is going to be presented for sale tomorrow. That's happening now, and we've adapted to that. I see EID tagging coming for cattle sooner rather than later, in my opinion. The sooner the better, that we get away from trying to read animals by reading their ear tags and washing tags and trying to clean tags and deal with getting down close into an animal's zone to read them. And we'll have an EID tag situation where we'll be able to read them with a wand and keep correct traceability, so that animals that come to the mart, that everything is correct and right, and we remove human error as much as possible. We also then would see as an industry that we have a big movement in relation to keeping the place viable in relation to dealing with costs of running a premises. We have challenges there. We have to look at how we can do things better, quicker, faster, smoother, and all of that, and yet keep what has been correct and right about the mart industry over the last 70, 80 years that has been in this country. And that's a challenge, and that's a big challenge. But it's something that we have learned more recently in the last year, again with COVID, that we have to change and we have to accept change sometimes. And that's going to that for me will be the biggest challenge, is keeping the place viable.
What would you say to these sellers that they're missing? Not from Tullow Mart, but from Marts in general. What would you say?
They're missing the art of sale. If we all stopped tomorrow morning, who creates the price is the question I ask. Where do we understand that the dairy beef cattle are making from 2 to 220 a kilo? Where do you reflect that information from, if there hasn't been a sale somewhere in Cork, or a sale in Donegal or Galway, or wherever your local industry is? If that sale hasn't happened, how do you ascertain those prices? How do you ascertain that those quality cattle we just discussed is going to be worth 3 or 310, 320 a kilo? Or the good Belgian blue bull that's going to go for export? How do you prove the point to say, well, look at in Ballygo backwards Mart yesterday, those sort of cattle were making from 280 to 310 a kilo. But if we are not happening, if our industry becomes defunct, null and void, I then ask the question, who makes the price? How do we ascertain correct market values? And without the mart industry, I think we're in a very dark scenario then for the whole beef situation, sheep, dairy, calf sales, the whole scenario. And I really hope that my passion and my full endorsement of what happens within the mart ring is conducted and fully taken on board by farmers. And I do think that it's coming round. I think we have given ourselves a new light here, especially with the online capacity, to show the younger farmers that we have a very viable and real reason to be there. I don't have any issue with anyone using those online platforms to sell their stock. They're very welcome to do it. But I only ask them the question, if we hadn't secured the prices that they're asking for them the previous week in our sales ring, how would they know what to ask when they're advertising them on that ad?
And do you think Going back, I suppose, again, do you think that profitability in that suckler herd is the way forward through Marts?
Yeah, look at profitability in the suckler herd is going to be. I still think the neb of that is in breeding and getting that correct. But certainly, we will, as as a mart industry, will have a big role to play in securing a correct market value. When you look at how we deal with weanling sales, for example, we have specialized weanling sales, as do many of our competitor marts, at certain times of the year, and ours is in September, October, November. We have a specialized Saturday weanling sale, and that's where these younger calves are offered for sale, and we have seen it year in, year out. The quality animals sell to very, very positive prices that are not being reflected the previous day in Tullow in the bullock ring or the heifer ring for the store cattle. So they're a premium correct product that's bred right, meeting all the dates, and going on as a bull beef scenario or as a young heifer finisher. That is there, but again, it's the correct one. It's the one that's bred right and correctly that's doing that. So without that breeding, I'm not so sure. But certainly, we will continue to play our role and have done and will do continue to play the role in the viability of the suckler herd. But we all have a responsibility to that to make sure that the correct animals are being bred in on the suckler farm.
Going back, I suppose, on that, it's the competition that a Mart brings. Now, more than ever before, you've had an increased amount of buyers, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you've had buyers that you haven't had in years. Is it them buyers, Tullow Mart, or the Marts as a whole, that bring back that level of competition for suckler cattle, which then increases profitability?
Of course it does, sir. Look at you cast my mind back to September to our bull sale. We had four exporters active on the line in the sales yard. You know, a few of them were buying blind, but they weren't there. But they were buying the cattle because they were fitting the procurement bill on the page, and they could see the animal. And certainly, I think what you're trying to get to there, Jamie, is that are we able to partake in the trade of these cattle? And we will give the tools. Yes, we are the mechanism. We're the engine to that, driving that price forward. We cast our mind back to Friday gone. We had a roan type heifer in the ring. She was 550 kilos and danced out the ring at 1630. 550 kilos, 1630. Now, if that heifer had it been put anywhere else other than into a sales ring, how would she have achieved 1630? I don't know that it was possible to get one person without getting someone else to give him or her a shove on with through an online auction or a live auctioning facility. And again, that picture being put up on Facebook, and the person that bought it was the person who had seen it on Facebook the day before and said, "That's an animal I want to buy," and had the ability to do it then through an online platform.
Having seen your ads on Facebook, you've came on hugely. Is it something you would recommend all Marts should put a lot of attention
Oh no, get away from it! Don't be going near it at all.
into?
Of course, Jamie. Sure, look, it's where we move. It's where the ship is now. We're at sea. You're always at sea. And if you're getting near the harbour or the coast, you have to get yourself back out to the middle of the sea again. And certainly, social media is the new way of transposing information. Text messages are nearly becoming outdated because they have to be read. Picture speaks 1,000 words. I was a science teacher taught me that one day. I was not so good at my diagrams when I was in secondary school, and I was trying to do a science project, and he wanted a diagram of it. And I remembered him very clearly, and to this day, God rest him, saying, "Eric, a picture speaks 1,000 words." And for me, that's where it is with the cattle or the sheep now. Throwing up a picture on Facebook, I could write paragraphs about them, but who's going to read it? You put that picture there in front of you, and that goes for any man or woman in any walk of life. Picture speaks 1,000 words.
And look, I suppose we're getting near the end now, but from you, look, I know, and I suppose a lot of people that deal in Tullow Mart know how passionate you are. You're probably one of the most passionate Mart managers I know, and look, no one's going to say anything bad about that. Um, from you, and I am intrigued in this, what's the most interesting thing that's happening in trade lately that gets you out of bed in the morning, that drives you on?
The prices. It'll always be the case. The prices in the buzz of knowing that tomorrow is going to be a good sale in Tullow, and the challenge is there to keep the momentum up from what we got last week. be it the cattle sales at the minute, as we have alluded to, the larger sales has been very positive, and it gives you a great kick to drive on and to keep the ball in the air as much as you can and to continue to kick it as high as you can. But that's the buzz. It's the buzz of getting up and going and being a Mart manager. I love what I do. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky that I have a great structure around me, be that family, my wife, 2 kids at home who are mad about livestock and farming and both want to be auctioneers at some stage. I'll direct them out of that, mind you. My dad, my mum, my in-laws, my brother, a farmer also, his wife, we're all involved in agriculture. He's working for a machinery company at TFM in Enniscorthy. You have my sister then, she's working with us in the office, Hannah. And it's all around us. And then I have such great staff at home, in the yard staff with me, so that's there to support me. I work for 3 brilliant families who have given me so much opportunity, and I hope I'm giving it back to them in spades and bucketfuls. But what gets you up tomorrow morning? Tomorrow morning I'll get up and we'll get going and we'll do it all again. And why do we do it all again? Because we're providing a service for the people who are so graceful, and to us in more recent times, more now than ever, that are graceful that we're able to provide a service for them to sell their stock. Because I think they got a real fright when they thought the Mart wasn't going to be there. And that's when COVID broke.
Eric, it's been a privilege for me. I know you throughout this, and look, it has been a hard year and we've had our ups and downs, but in terms of, to the listeners at home that don't know you, have you any last words, remarks that you'd like to say to them before we sign off?
Look, firstly to yourself, Jamie, and the team at Marta, to Kieran and yourself especially, who we've got to know very well over the last year. I want to say thank you, and that's putting it on the record.
Jesus, that's it.
Yeah.
You have this recorded.
Yeah, you possibly are, but I say thank you for, I suppose, giving us the ability to make ourselves viable through a very difficult time for the country and for the farming industry, and for all that you have done. And now I'm definitely owed about 3 months discount for that. Having said that, we will continue to have fractious arguments, and that's who I am. I won't spare you. If I think you'll need it, you're going to get it.
I do look forward to it.
And that's positive. And what do I say to the people who's listening? I just thank you for your time and for listening to us, and to remember that your sales ring, your local mart, be it Tullow or whoever else it is a very important place for this industry, and do everything you can to make sure it's sustained. And if you take nothing away from tonight, I want you to take one thing away from the podcast: is continue to be a price maker, not a price taker. And in doing that, you will ascertain your local livestock mart. You will continue to be a price maker, and you will look forward to a very positive experience in your local mart. And as it comes as a manager of Tullow Mart, I would have to sign off by saying sheep sale every Tuesday, cattle sale every Friday. Just give us a shout on 087 77 67402 or 05991 51142. We're on our Mart website. We're on Facebook. You'll get us on the Mart web page as well. We're there. We're ready to work for you, and give us a chance. We won't disappoint you.
Thank you, and be safe.